Hi, everybody. This is Angela Catalesa here with Yasuhiko Genku Kimura for another discussion on facets of polymathy that are interesting. We've talked about polymathic leadership, polymathy and spirituality, and today we're here to talk about polymathic leadership. Yasuhiko, is there anything you'd like to say before we dive in?
No.
Nope. Okay, well, let's the party begin then. All right, so my first question for you is, and by the way, before I dive in fully, let me just preface this with polymathy and leadership have been looked at very little. Michael Araki wrote his master's thesis on it. But other than that, that's pretty much it. So this is a totally new burgeoning field with a lot of potential and a lot of potential impact, I think. It's an important discussion, and hopefully you guys will find this interesting as we dive in. So now my first question, Yasuhiko, is, how would you define leadership?
Okay. So I'm going to give you the ideal version
Okay.
of what leadership is, toward which we can all aspire.
Okay.
So I wrote something here. So let me see. Yeah. Leadership is the mastery in the art and science of envisioning a new future and of exploring and navigating the unknown and the uncertain to attain that new future, involving a group of people who participate in the exploration and who co-create and share that new future. So leadership is the mastery in the art and science of envisioning a new future and exploring and navigating the unknown and uncertain to attain that new future, involving a group of people who participate in that exploration and who co-create with you and share with you that new future. And in one of my essays, I wrote something about creativity, and that really applies to this leader. So the ultimate in creativity is that which creates new perception of reality and visions of the world. This creativity transcends and is more fundamental than any art form. It is a direct participation in the creative process of the universe. It is foreseeing a possibility arising as a new future in the cosmic evolution. And evolution is synonymous with exploration. The more evolved you are in consciousness, the further is the horizon of your exploration, and the greater is your capacity for exploration. So you see, the leader, I'm talking about ideal. That ideal leader is endowed with that kind of creativity, transcend any art form. And let's say Da Vinci or Michelangelo, great artists who express their perception of the new through their artwork, but they did it by themselves. Leader has one extra dimension, which is to involve other people and let them participate in the same exploration and the co-creation of that new possibility. So
I feel like you need a standing ovation. Like, that was beautiful and thoughtful and fresh. I love it. I love it. Sorry, go on. You were going to say something else.
Whenever you say you love whatever I say, that's a great acknowledgement.
I love a lot of what you say. Not too hard, actually. But that was excellent. That was excellent.
So in that sense, leadership is the higher creativity of seeing what isn't, the unseen and invisible, and in the art of guiding people in the process of transforming what isn't into what is.
It's like an alchemy almost.
Exactly. So you need to be able to see the unseen and perceive unperceived. That's the difference between leader and manager. Manager manages the known.
Right.
Leader actually takes people into the unknown and let others see and realize that which he or she has seen before.
What do you think it takes to be able to do that? Like, is it bravery? Is it curiosity? Like, what does it take to be able to be that type of person?
It's an extremely good question. First of all, I just want to clarify, not everybody is born to be a leader.
Right. Yeah.
Because leadership is not a job description. It is a quality of being.
That's an excellent point. That's an excellent point.
It is not even a skill. Only a leader can develop leadership skill. And that's because you are not a leader does not mean you're a bad person or inferior person. It's a different characters. And I don't know what percentage of humans are born to be a leader, but they are born to be a leader. Born to be musical genius, born to be this kind of genius that people are born with. You have that quality, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You have a leadership quality. You are born with it. You need to thank your parents.
Thank you, parents. Thank you, universe. Well, thank you for that. So what do you need to be able, like what ingredients do you need to be able to be that kind of person aside from being born with it?
It is a quality of intelligence. And that's a quality of intelligence. It is a dimension of creativity that human intelligence has. That is not bound by any form.
Yeah, we've been talking so much separately about freedom, and I feel like to be that type of person, you need some level of inner freedom to free yourself. To have that envisioning capability.
Exactly. So some people are born with that kind of creativity and intelligence, quality of intelligence, number one. Number two, that person needs to develop. Just because you are born with that quality does not mean that you will become a leader. Now you are born with capacity for this. Now you need to develop it. And the number of elements that are required. And most fundamental dimension of this requirement is that you be at cause.
A what?
You be at cause. Causative.
Causative, okay.
Yeah. Sorry, this is one of those difficult words for Japanese to pronounce.
No, I think you pronounced it fine. It's just not used a lot. So I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying.
Yeah. So, and being at cause is one definition of being free. Free person is being at cause, not at effect.
Being a cause and not an effect. Wow, that is deep.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
So, a few days ago, I was speaking with our good friend, Tom Warner. He's a brilliant chemist and philosopher and also a musician. Actually, he's a kind of polymath, he's a member of a group. Anyway, I told him this, science, the limitation of science so far, although they talk about cause and effect, what they study is all effect. It is a sequence of effect, and you see this came before this, therefore this is a cause, but then there's something else. There's ongoing effects only.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see the cause because cause is unseen and unperceived. Mm-hmm. It is a suprasensory and supraperceptual. Mm-hmm. And science so far has not dealt with the real cause of anything. They only see the connections of effect. Hmm. So being at cause is a way of being in which universe becomes an ongoing basis. So you are a cause of becoming and you are a cause of being. Mm. It is extremely difficult to explain or describe, actually. You are the active force.
Yeah, there's like an energy to being a cause.
Force. There is no element of reactivity. You may respond in the process of acting, but there is no reactivity.
Feels like this concept of being a cause more than an effect. Feels like there's a power in it. There's a doing in it. There's an energy in it.
Actually, Nietzsche called this aspect of force that is at the basis of universe, will to power.
Will to power. Yeah, I think in Star Wars they called it maybe the Force.
Yeah, but you see, not just a force. It has a intention.
Yes.
So there's a force, and it is an attribute of force.
An attribute of force.
Yeah. It differentiates itself from other forces.
Is power different than force? Power versus force?
That's
a book.
Depending on the person, how you define them. But force is the physical force. And power is that intention.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked to, is there anything else you want to say about?
Okay, so you see so leadership, and going back to the being at a cause, leadership is the mastery in the creative art of transforming the unmanifest to become the manifest. Yes, because it is so you see, you actually are keenly aware and reside in that unmanifest dimension to be a cause. And people only see manifestation, but your awareness is not in the manifest alone, but also more fundamentally, your awareness is in that unmanifest dimension. So the Buddhists call this originally awareness. Awareness that is not just be aware of something, all of which is our effect, but originating awareness.
Yeah.
The awareness is a creative awareness where you actually bring something into existence. No,
you create.
On basis, yeah, it's a creative. And human consciousness is basically passive. You become conscious of whatever is manifested. Even your thought, when you have become aware of your thought, it is an after thought when you become aware of the thought. So the physical or metaphysical, the content of consciousness are all effect, manifest. And I'm talking about originary awareness, which goes beyond just being conscious, but it is an originating awareness where you are aware of unmanifest, and be at cause of becoming and manifesting, affecting.
Yeah, like you can see a future potential.
Yes, that's why you are able to see the future people cannot see. You can perceive, or you can say apperceive, that which is not perceived by others. It is a particular quality of creativity.
So leadership is a kind of creativity.
Yes.
Yeah, which is that's a cool point. That's a cool point people don't normally make about leadership. Okay.
I'm speaking something about something it is extremely difficult to put into language, but I hope that I have kind of conveyed it.
Yeah, I think you have.
So you are right about the, being a free thinker, definitely, because being free, you are at cause. So you're thinking, you're thinking originally. So you're thinking creatively.
Yeah. Yeah. The ability to really think for yourself. And sometimes, I've been wrestling with this lately. How much of who we are is really us, and how much is the programming, the environment, the actors, the circumstances around us. But I think the ability to siphon out what is not really you and be you and think for yourself is so important. And it's part of why that inner freedom is so important, and why creativity is so important, and why exploring all that's why I love polymathy, is because it lets you explore the full human experience of who you are within some bounds, obviously, because we live in a society, but it's so important to be able to think for yourself. And sometimes people think they're thinking for themselves, and it may just be their programming thinking, and they're tricking themselves into thinking it's really them, but it's really not.
So what do you think will differentiate those two, programmed and unprogrammed? How do you recognize the difference in your mind?
I think being able to question your own beliefs. Like, you have a thought, you have a belief, examine it. You become an examiner, even of what you think is your own belief. I think it takes some bravery to be able to do that too. Because it's easier, the program is easier. It's societally approved, it's accepted, it's common. And so to be able to explore your own mind honestly, your own personhood honestly, really takes a lot of guts. But what is more important to do than that? I mean, why be here if you're not going to be you? You're not going to be original, and you're not going to explore your personhood. So to me, there's very little that's more important than doing that.
Yeah, we are thinking include rethinking of that that has been thought. And in the process of rethinking, you begin to think originally. Yeah. And in a way, probably everything that we think about has been thought about many times in the past. Yeah. But when you rethink, you are the one who is thinking and rethinking. And in that process, you become original. And just because you rethought something once doesn't mean you're done. Because over the course of your lifetime, you may rethink over and over again. Exactly. I agree. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, yes. And so one aspect of being a free thinker, an original thinker, and which is an essential component of being a leader, is to be thinking and re-examining ongoingly whatever it is that you have thought before. Yeah. You know, the human brain is an incredible piece of equipment that we all get. And it's such a waste to not really use it. It's such a waste. It's such a shame. Yeah. So after 60 years of 60 years of wasting it, I can truly identify with what you haven't wasted it at all. Oh gosh. Okay. So we've talked about leadership.
In my upcoming book, which is called Versatility in the Age of Specialization, I've talked about something I'm calling polymathic leadership. And this, again, it's been written about basically just by Michael Araki and me now. It's very new. But I describe polymathic leadership as a process of influencing others where the leader engages in polymathic thinking and behaviors to empower the team to accomplish shared goals, while they also apply a polymathic mindset and behaviors themselves. So we've talked about leadership. You and I have talked about polymathy in other recordings more, but bottom line, my question for you right now is, what would your definition of polymathic leadership be?
So you see, as you have pointed out, polymathy is the evolutionary trajectory of the human intelligence.
Yeah, for sure.
When it is freed, liberated, emancipated from the cultural and social demand and programming, impositions, conditionings, yes? And humans have been trained to be workers, specialized in something.
Be a cog in a wheel.
We have never been educated to be free thinkers. And once we are released from this demand, cultural demand, imposition to be specialist workers, then our intelligence is released. And that natural evolution of that release is in the direction of being polymathic. So it is not everybody will become full-fledged polymath.
Right.
But most people will become polymathic, because you can't just be, focus on one thing to be curious, intellectually curious.
Yeah.
Intellectual curiosity actually expands.
Yeah. One thing makes you curious about the next, yeah.
Yeah.
It grows.
So polymath is the leader for human evolution. You and I spoke about this before this, conversation. So I think late 20th century, there have been movement, like integral movement, system science, complexity. Buckminster Fuller used the term comprehensivist. So from over specialization to more integral way of thinking and comprehensive way of knowing. Now, that's still intellectual. So definitely there's a movement of specialization to a more comprehensive way of knowing and thinking intellectually and academically. It is happening now. What you bring to this is beyond, because it is not just intellectual comprehensivity, but ontological wholeness and spiritual wholeness to beings. So being a polymathy is not just becoming a generalist. It is a way of being. It is a way of being human.
Yeah, more
where one's intelligence is released, freed to explore and wonder and question. Yes?
Yeah.
And that is essential for the evolution of human consciousness in the direction that the comprehensivist, integralist are pointing toward. It is beyond intellectual activity. It is really a spiritual activity. It is an ontological activity. And your work is so important in this sense, because it is not just academic interest.
It's not out there. Yeah, the way I've been thinking about it lately is you can look at issues from the macro level of analysis, meso level, or micro level. So societal, organizational, or individual. And I think systems thinking and comprehensivity, those ideas are kind of at the macro level, the societal level. They're ideas that can apply to societies maybe, or large groups of people. And then at the meso level of analysis, I feel like maybe organizational ambidexterity, where you exploit what you're good at while you also explore the new and leaning into potential futures, takes place. And then at the individual level, it could be described as being polymathic or polymath. But it makes these ideas that are sort of out there, and it brings it so that it's real. It's at the one person at a time. What does it mean for you? Because at the end of the day, that's all we can control, is one person at a time. Builds those organizations, builds those societies, but it has to start with one person.
I agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
So
you see that? Yeah. So you asked the question about what is the polymathic leadership? Yes.
Right.
So polymathic leaders will be leaders of this evolutionary movement itself, the movement of intelligence towards polymathy in the world, in societies, communities, and organizations, in all levels.
Interesting. That's an interesting definition.
So you see, so you can, in a macro level, you are a leader in the evolution of human intelligence and human consciousness in the direction of polymathy. In the organization, the same way. Starting from your self-leadership, as in your terminology, so you become, you release your intelligence and become more and more polymathic. In the organizations, you become a leader of that polymathic movement in society too. So that is a polymathic leadership. Leaders who are polymathic, who develops his or her own polymathy, polymathic capabilities, and inspire, assist, and support, and empower and encourage others to release their intelligence in the direction of polymathy.
There's exponential potential, because the polymathic leader doesn't just focus on them, but they help in freeing and empowering the group. How to unleash the potential of that group to co-create a future reality that's better. One of the things I just want to tack on to real quick, and we've talked about this before, but it fits here, so I want to mention it, is in the book called The Phenomenon of Man, the author says that basically there's two trends you see in the evolutionary process: increased individuation, so we become more unique as individual members of that group, and increased cooperation. And it's my belief that that's what being polymathic allows for. It allows you to express your onlyness and to become more unique, to add diversity to the pool of people, and that it also allows more interconnectivity because you have more understanding of more things. You can connect with people better. So it's not just that, like, it sounds like this is a good evolutionary thing for us as human. Like, no, if you look at like what the trends are with evolution, which is increased individuation and increased cooperation, that's what polymathic expression in one human being at a time allows for. It is part of our evolutionary impulse.
And this increased individuation implies an increased self-responsibility. And when you develop your self-responsibility, self-responsibility becomes self with a capital S responsibility, where the self include the whole. So you begin with your individuation and self-responsibility. And the more you become individuated, the more you become indivisible wholeness of being, your individuality becomes cosmic individuality.
Yes, I was thinking that.
Because the what I call monad, it is different from my Leibniz monad. Monad, the whole
One of a
world
kind.
experience, that is you, become individuated. So
Yeah.
in a way, the whole universe become part of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ancient Hindus call this Atman. A little bit different from what I'm saying, but basically, yourself becomes expanded quantitatively and therefore qualitatively, so that it contains the whole. And so individuation end up being fully inclusive of the whole universe, actually.
Yeah.
And people make a big mistake of individuation, like, becoming individual. No, the more you become individual, you become like this.
Yeah. You become, the world enters you more.
Exactly.
So one other thing I want to add on here too is you and I are spiritual kind of people. We're open to the woo-woo, right? We're also logical and rational.
Weird, very weird.
This is weird. It's already weird. So, I mean, it's a given. There's more weirdness.
There's a terminology now called woolology, studying of the woo.
Studying the woo-woo. I want to get a PhD in woo-woo. Where can I get that?
Yeah, why not? Yes.
Okay, so because we're spiritually oriented, we know there's more than meets the eye to existence and consciousness and reality. It's my belief that part of the human experience is sort of like, it's like your human experience is a canvas on which to create art. Your life becomes kind of like an artistic expression and curation while you're here on planet Earth. And I think that there's like the best way to do that is to kind of tune in and express your real capital S self, the self you were before you got this human body. And so there's an element of self-leadership in that, in allowing the real you to come through, right? Do you have any comments on that piece?
So the self-leadership, in the way that you define it, lead into self-leadership with S, capital S leadership.
Yeah.
Evolutionary trajectory.
Yeah.
And the more you move in that direction, the more people get involved and you become the leader for others.
Do you feel like when you meet a person who's very highly authentic, individuated, expressing their onlyness in a polymathic kind of way, just a real person, not so programmed, when you meet that kind of a person, do you feel like it creates a kind of permission to allow others to do the same? Is there a domino effect of being this way?
But you see, people can perceive others only at the level at which they perceive themselves. So sometimes those really authentic people cause discomfort in others who are deeply conditioned and programmed.
So your authenticity is making me a little uncomfortable because I'm not there yet.
So if you are drawn to authentic person, there's an authenticity in you.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the most authentic people get vilified by society.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
So you need to be able to actually, communicate your thought experience in such a way that is conducive to other people's evolution.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it. We're all in our own little monads, our own little worlds, bumping into each other, and everyone else is in their own little worlds. And yet we're still in this world together, but with so many microcosms within it.
Thing is, they are not aware of their own monad.
Mm.
You see, most humans live in the psychological reality, matrix.
The matrix. I love that.
And distant from reality. Monad is a reality, and with which most people create psychological reality, matrix, and you live there because people are conditioned in the same language and same images in the psychological reality. They appear to be communicating to each other. Really. But this is a two-way monologue which is being understood by each other simply because they are hypnotized in the same way.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny when you think about it.
Yeah. Okay. So you see, and you and I have been, talking about this over 11 years. Authenticity, being oneself.
Yeah.
Being authentically oneself can only happen in reality. And the more we live in a psychological reality, less authentic we are. So becoming authentic requires that we free ourselves from that psychological reality. Now bring that polymathy. So somebody who is highly gifted in, intellectually and polymathic can be totally in the psychological reality. So your work is bringing people down from psychological reality to reality, and making this polymathically gifted people a leader in reality to bring human consciousness into a higher level.
It's so fascinating that for you, polymathic leadership, it's really almost a metaphysical, spiritual practice. It's not just like within organizations and to get your month-end goals, and it's beyond that. Yeah. Although there is a place for it, as I think we're going to discuss too, and like where this would apply in organizations.
Yes, and that's where one of the unique aspects of your work. So, polymathic people tend to be, highly intelligent.
Yeah.
And they form their own high IQ society. And they feel very comfortable being there. And that's fine if they want to do that. But you are saying there's a larger potential for being polymath, which has an evolutionary impact on humanity.
Yes.
Where virtually everybody can cultivate this polymathic potentials that are inherent in human intelligence.
Yeah, I think it's necessary for our human evolution for individuals to express their polymathic nature.
That's true.
I think it's necessary. Okay, my next question for you is, so polymathy at a basic level means many learnings.
Yeah.
Do you believe that polymathic learning is important for leaders to do?
I have consulted many corporations and organizations. And CEOs, the leaders, tend to be more generalist than specialist. So to a degree that, they are polymathic.
Yeah.
And being a polymath and many learning means that, you are fluent in many different languages. in the sense, you can speak the language of mathematics, you can speak the language of computer science, you can speak the language of literature, you can speak language of poetry. In that sense, you are multilingual in that sense.
Yeah.
Each discipline has its own language.
Right.
And if you're multidisciplinary and you're fluent in many different disciplines, you are also fluent in many different languages.
Yep.
So you can speak to your engineers, you can speak to your managers, you can speak to your advertising people, you can speak their languages. Mm-hmm. So polymathic ability is definitely a huge plus for being leaders.
Yeah.
No question.
I agree.
And so people who are in a leadership position can actually, consciously develop that dimension and become more conversant in different disciplines. And you see, what happens is, engineers, if your CEO speaks their language, they feel more connected.
It's tricky too, because the leader might veer towards what they're most familiar with.
Yeah, but you see, if you're polymathic and you can speak different languages, you don't go into any particular directions. So you don't need to be as good as your chief of engineer in terms of engineering, but you understand the language. You can talk with them. Mm-hmm. You have a bigger picture.
There was a study. Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Please.
I was just going to say there was a study I found a while back that basically said that people with intrapersonal diversity, so more experiences across domains, mm-hmm. they're better at environmental scanning, like figuring out what do I need to be on the lookout for. They're also better at understanding the strengths of other people mm-hmm. and tapping into and understanding what they help elevate the whole team mm-hmm. by understanding other people's strengths and capacities more fully.
Yes.
They're able to leverage them. And they're better at understanding what's coming down the pipeline in the environment, which are two very critical, important skills to have, especially as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think leaders who are polymathic would be more or less effective than specialist leaders? You kind of touched on that already, but you have anything else to add on that front?
See, well, probably, what leaders do is to communicate, yes?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So communication means to speak and to listen, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so polymathic people being fluent in different languages and different disciplines, they tend to be better communicator in both speaking and listening. Mm. And communication is a unit of society or unit of human relationships.
Yeah.
So there will be a greater rapport amongst people when there is a good communication.
Yeah.
So in that sense, the polymathic ability of a leader help him or her in being an effective leader, more effective leader, I think.
Yeah. You know what? If you think about it, without communication, we're each just individual nodes or actors in a system. Communication is what makes us able to connect and behave holistically as a group. If I can't communicate, and communication can take different forms, but you're right, like the ability to communicate allows us to harness our group potential, our collective potential, because without that, we just become individuals isolated.
Yes.
And if you're able to communicate more effectively because you speak multiple languages, that puts you at an advantage for sure.
And there's another dimension to communication, which is extremely important. You see, communication heals.
Mm.
And, there is a new discipline in biology called biosemiotics. And they see the whole biological organism as a semiotic system, communication network. And when you have illness, there is a breakdown in communication within your system. So when that communication is restored, then your body get healed. And in the human relationship, the same way. Have you noticed that when there is real good communication, there is no war? Even if you don't agree or seem in conflict, when you can communicate with the other person, there will be no antagonism or enmity. You know, you just simply disagree with each other, but you can communicate. And in society, when two countries are somehow being able to communicate, there is no war. When communication stops, war begins. And then you notice when the moment the communication gets restored, war ends. So in healing in a global scale, human society, and also healing in the human body level or human relationship level, communication is a key to healing. And therefore, the healing in health, same etymology. So when there is a great communication in an organization or in society, or human relationships, there is health, ongoing healing going on. And combining this with polymathy in leadership, so polymathic people can develop the communicative ability in a higher, more multidimensional way than those who are not. Simply because, as I said repeatedly, he or she can communicate in different languages so that the other can understand, number one. Yes?
Yeah.
Very important aspect.
Yeah, I think that's such a point, that if it's true that being polymathic sort of allows you to speak more professional languages, and therefore you communicate better, both giving and receiving.
There are 6,000 languages on the planet, including dialectic. So like Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese, written basically the same, but different pronunciations of two languages. In this way, we count them. There are 6,000 languages. Wow. Now there are 8,000 academic disciplines. In that sense, there are 8,000 different languages. In that sense, yes. Yeah,
that's a good point. So if it's true, though, that being polymathic allows you basically to be a better communicator, a better understander, a better giver and receiver of information, and that sort of capacity can avoid maybe literal wars and maybe even figurative or organizational wars, then by that logic, then being a polymathic leader would make you more effective just at that critical piece of the communication between members of the group. That's a good point.
Basically, releasing your polymathic ability is make you more effective at anything.
Yeah, it's empowering.
Yeah, and which means you become more and more you, and your intelligence is given more and more power.
Yeah. What behaviors do you think a polymathic leader would exhibit?
He will be listening more than talking.
Agreed. Yeah.
That's a huge difference. I think you will see.
I think also, so there's two elements to polymathic leadership in my view, and I'm still sort of thinking through, because this is a totally new field. But there's two parts. There's the leader, the person who's influencing or envisioning, that person being polymathic themselves. That's one element of it. And then there's this other piece of like the leader empowering others to be polymathic. So it's a two sides of a similar coin. My own polymathy as a leader, and then also how can I empower others to come to polymathic solutions and to engage in polymathic behaviors at work, because it makes the work better, more effective, more comprehensivist in their solutions. And so let's maybe think through this a little bit. Like, let's go with the polymathic leader. Just the leader, him or herself, thinks in a polymathic way and behaves in a polymathic way. Are there any other behaviors that you think that person would exhibit? Or if you prefer, we could go down the other path first, which is for the person influencing the group to rise up to their polymathic potential.
When Polymathic Leader is an organization,
Mm-hmm.
and he leads any organizational project,
Mm-hmm.
the structure of the organization or team will shift, because up to this moment there was kind of a hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Generalist on the top and specialist in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And the structure is more rigid
Mm-hmm.
and formalized, and they will stay in the silos of their specialty.
Mm-hmm.
When Polymathic leader lead an organization and then lead people to become and more polymathic, the person no longer stays in the silo of his specialty, but moves across. So it will be more dynamic organizational structure, more like a process, no longer real rigid, stable structure, but real process. So it will be very scary for people who are not polymathic and who are not used to thinking for themselves. Mm. So it will take some time before the society go into the direction, but it is possible to create an organization in a smaller scale to create like a more leader is always leading, but there is a fluidity to this movement, and organization is no longer a structure but an organism. Something like an organism, more process-oriented. Mm-hmm. And so there will be also questions being asked will be gain more importance than answers.
Yeah.
And Polymathic leader would allow the space for making errors and mistakes.
Yes, I agree.
And so, people are given the freedom to take risks.
Yes.
And make mistakes.
Yes.
Now, in the existing society, this is an extremely risky thing to do. So, within an organization, you can create that kind of a space and gradually turn the whole organization into polymathic organization. But the company needs to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so shift of culture.
Yeah.
And you see, companies need to produce results.
Right.
So, and you need to be competing against other organizations. Mm-hmm. So if turning organization into polymathic does not benefit the company in that sense, it is a losing proposition. So in the existing society, existing corporate environment, companies that are forward-looking and corporate leaders who are polymathic leaders want to actually, create the culture change gradually. And the change actually impact on their performance and result, so that they can actually win in the game of business against others who are not polymathic. So it is not an overnight change, but you need to begin.
Oh, I almost sneezed. So can I share a few things? Like I gave a little bit of thought to like, well, what does polymathic leadership, like what behaviors are involved in that? And can I share some of what I wrote about in my book?
Yeah.
Okay, so polymathy, it means many learnings. Like it's very related to learning and growing and improving. And so a polymath leader would, first of all, if when presented with a problem or an issue, they would apply prior learnings. They would go in and say, well, what do I know that could help this problem? How can I use what I know from the past? They would also say, well, what else do I need to learn? So what do I know? And then like, how can I learn more? Where is information needed? How can that information be gleaned? How can it be applied? So they want to make sure solutions are the most well-informed, and having more information will help. So use old information, get new information, and then go beyond what you know. How can you tap into other people's knowledge and their skills and their insights and experiences? So what do I know? What do I need to learn? How can I tap into what other people know? And also, how can I learn from this experience so it makes me better for the future and informs me, makes me better able to cope with future problems? So the bottom line, in my view, is that given that problems are ripe opportunities for learning to take place, that a polymathic leader would always be seeking to apply learning to the problems while also using the problem to learn more. Mm-hmm. So whatever happens, you can use it to your advantage, almost like an alchemist. Like, however hard this is, I'll use it to my advantage by learning from it. So the behaviors, when I think of polymathic leadership, there's really a relationship, an intimate relationship with learning. It's related to learning and how can I use learning to make the situation or the problem better. Did that resonate with you? What do you think of that?
Yes. Yeah, so it become, what Peter Senge calls learning organization.
Exactly.
Organization will become learning. And but probably polymathic leaders or polymathic organization have additional elements to what you said. Mm. And going back to my original definition of leader, polymathic leader will ask the question such as, what is a question we haven't asked before?
Yeah, I love that question.
And so it is not just, you face a problem and solve them in the way that you described, but you actually seek new problem which will move the organization forward. You see, programs are necessary for, it is a part of human life.
Yeah.
Program thrown before you, so you always throw, and then so you are the one who is throwing it. So you see, there is one solution, and you come up with program and solution. There is a codependency, so to speak. So when the solution is a solution to a problem, its identity as a solution depend on the existence of the problem.
Right.
You get that?
Yep.
Yes. So sometimes the existence of problem persists because so long as this remains to be a solution. Yes. So problem, reaction, solution. Then solution, reaction, problem. There's a reactive relationship between the two. And yes. And
this,
so,
yeah. Sorry, please. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
So in order for the development to take place in the organization, the person should not be only reacting to the problem that comes, but create a program, exciting program, toward which the whole organization can move to solve. And when this happens, this reactive relationship between the two dissolves, and different kind of movement takes place, and the problem becomes the solution.
Yeah. You know what? I was just going to say.
I'm communicating this very clearly. So
there's value in looking for problems.
Yeah.
Because it allows for new solutions.
Yes.
Better.
It is what a polymathic leader can bring to this, because of his greater intelligence, greater knowledge, and greater or more intimate relationship with the unknown.
Yeah.
He can actually envision a state in which this problem people trying to solve cannot even exist. For example, I'm just giving an example. Then you come up with a new state of being for the organization where this problem cannot arise. Then what happens is that achieving of that becomes a problem. And that's when people come together to evolve the organization into different state.
Yeah.
When that happens, again, there will be a new problem. But then again, it's a different way of dealing with a problem, from problem solution, reactive spiral.
That problem solution scenario that you mentioned, I want to touch on that a little bit, because what came up for me is so often what happens in organizations is there's a problem, and then we organize ourselves in such a way and we come up with products or services that is solution to that problem. And then our whole existence is based on this rigid solution that we've invented, where really what we need is solutions that can evolve and morph and change rather than be fixed.
Exactly.
Because what the problem is, when our offerings become fixed, it's setting us up for failure.
It becomes
we're not adapting.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
Yeah, rigidity speaks of death in organizations and in life. Like the Tao told us.
Yeah, let's go back to this. So most of us think in terms of dialectics, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. And when we encounter a problem, that's how we think. Is that correct? And synthesis being a solution. Yes. There's a different way of dealing with life and problems. And going back to being at cards, we can move out of this reactive mode, action-reaction mode, into being at cards. So I'm repeating the same thing using different language. You are actually creating a new future on an ongoing basis, which you get unstuck with where you are on an ongoing basis. Being unstuck is the original meaning of ecstatic.
I love this idea of being unstuck. Yeah. It speaks of the versatility that exists within a polymath, and it speaks of the versatility that should exist in organizations so they don't become rigid. And
so in life and in organization, in people's lives and the organization and society, have you noticed that we get bored with same thing over and over and over again? There's a problem, there's a solution. then another problem, there's solution. Another problem, solution. And although problem may be different, it's basically the same thing over and over and over again in life. What is that? So being stuck means you are repeating the same pattern. Problem, solution, problem, solution, problem, solution.
It's dehumanizing in a way.
Yes. And what I'm suggesting, and what Polymathic leader can do better than others, is to completely move out of this vicious circle of problem, solution, problem, solution. Being at cause, navigating into the unknown, leading others in that exploration. So it is an ongoing creation of new future.
It's an adventure.
Within which there may be some problems, of course, but it is a creative process.
Yeah.
So, give you an example, and this is very difficult to actually practice, bring into practice. Do you know when the United States was freest?
When?
Before the Constitution was signed. Probably between 1760 to 1785, 6, 7, 8, 9. Around that 30 years period, probably the United States was the freest. Once freedom became institutionalized, the degree of freedom decreased immediately.
Once you technically have it, it's already lessened.
So at this moment, humans only know freedom to be chaos.
Interesting.
You understand? And you cannot really institutionalize freedom in the sense that we institutionalize anything. With a different way of organizing.
Freedom must be free.
Yes. There's a different way of organizing, carrying on this process of evolution and development. So United States,
very meta.
Yes, yeah, and then freedom decreased. And see what we are here today. So you see, polymath and polymathic leader has the great ability to really configure this process of chaosmos, not cosmos, but chaosmos, chaos cosmos together.
Chaosmos.
Cosmo chaos or chaos cosmos, whatever you call this. There is an order. At the same time, it is chaotic. And when you may notice that really alive, evolving organizations appear a little bit chaotic. And when you're alive, when you're developing a lot, in retrospect, it was pretty chaotic.
Oh, yeah. We grow the most in our challenging times and the chaos challenge. Yeah. You know what came up? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
So you see, so there was a book a long time ago called Thriving on Chaos. And, we need to have that ability to thrive on chaos. And so we need to shift the definition of organization.
Even the term implies like be organized, don't flex, be rigid. Yeah.
Structure is defined as a stable pattern. Okay. And stable pattern. There needs to be a fundamental stability, yes. But that pattern can be the pattern of evolution that is stable. Within which actually element of chaos continuously exists. And people need to be able, which means, you see, chaos exists because there's a lot of unknown element.
That's exactly right.
And being able to navigate in unknown and explore the uncertainty requires this ability to be in that chaos. You are like being in a pristine order, which appears to be chaos. And that is a kind of intelligence that a leader should actually, in ideal state, should develop. And polymathic people have a higher aptitude to achieve that kind of a leadership.
Yeah.
Because of what we discussed.
One of the things I learned through my research by interviewing highly accomplished polymathic people was they're more comfortable with the unknown. They like the unknown. It gives them a puzzle. It gives them something to be curious about, something to untangle. There's a different openness to uncertainty that you find in polymathic people compared to people who are more specialized. They tend to want more certainty, and they want routine. They want predictability. I think I shouldn't say this. I think that comes out of some fear sometimes. It takes bravery to be open to the unknown.
One needs to be able to be secure in insecurity and certain in uncertainty. And it is the certainty or security. It is not about knowing, because in a dimension of knowing, it's unknown and uncertain actually excites you.
Yes.
Okay, but the certainty and security comes at the level of being. So you are being, as far as your own being is concerned, you are secure and uncertain, even if you die tomorrow.
This is not completely related to polymathy and leadership, but I just want to ask you a quick question, because we've been talking separately about freedom so much. What is freedom? And do you think a person can be free without being polymathic?
Now, you see, depending on, because to a degree, everybody is polymathic in a sense that nobody is a born specialist.
Right. It's in our nature, for sure.
So freedom is possible for virtually every human being. Yes.
Yeah.
And so the free person being himself, herself, and if he has a greater capacity for polymathy, then he or she will become more polymathic than others.
In a way, being polymathic allows more freedom because you can explore more. And in a way, the need to explore more takes away some freedom, because you need something and it's harder.
More freedom can be in a range of freedom, yes. Yeah, range of freedom. But instead of being free, it does not depend on the degree of intelligence or capacity for polymathy, the quality of being free, but the range of free, in which you can experience the freedom will be larger. There's no question.
Okay, thank you for that divergence to freedom. Speaking of freedom, actually, my next question kind of has to do with being a free thinker. What do you recommend for a well-rounded, free-thinking polymath who wants to step up and be an envisioner, an influencer, a leader more? What do you recommend to that person?
One of the qualities of a free thinker is whatever I say or you say, they will disagree with you.
A lot of contrarianism, yes.
So my advice wouldn't mean much.
They're going to do whatever they want anyway. So yeah.
But you know, one thing they can pay attention to is, you see, 100% absolute freedom is like a evolutionary strange attractor. Yeah, it is. We can go closer and closer, and there is nobody who is 100% free from any form of programming, for example.
Right.
So there are areas where still we are unfree.
Yeah.
Therefore, any free thinker, to develop their free thinking ability, they want to ongoingly be aware of where there is unfreedom.
Yes.
Same is true with authenticity. You know, when you become authentic, you become aware of your own inauthenticity. When you become free, you begin to see the areas of unfreedom in your life and in your in your thinking. So it's ongoingly, it is like a, in a way, it is ongoingly recognizing what isn't and turning into what is. Yeah. So it requires real commitment to be absolutely free and absolutely authentic, which is a strange attractor for your evolution, and will move ongoing in that direction.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, what kind of a leader would a person be if they're fake?
Yeah, exactly.
They're pretending.
Yeah.
I think it actually makes others not want to collaborate with you if they sense a sort of inauthenticity or fakeness. You won't be as effective harnessing the potential of the group because they'll sense the fakeness and not want to be a part of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Next question. What advice do you have for people who are already leaders? Would you recommend anything to them as it relates to polymathy, either in themselves or in fostering the polymathic development in their teams?
So, having listened to us so far, and then if they developed an appreciation for being a polymath, then they will, they should consciously and intentionally start cultivating their polymathic abilities. And that's it. And that will help them to be a more effective leader.
Yeah.
For the reason that we shared.
Right. Is there a polymathic leader from history that you admire? Yes. That you want to bring up, and why do you admire that person?
That's so many polymaths I admire, but I want to mention a name, Thomas Young. Now there are two Thomas Youngs, and one was actually mentioned in your Polymath Place Facebook group. The British polymath, Thomas Young, who was born, I think, 1773 and died in 1829. You get the sense? So it was around the time of American Revolution. Right. And toward the end of Thomas Jefferson's presidency and beyond. Actually, toward the end of Thomas Jefferson's life, actually. So this
another great polymath.
Yeah. Thomas Jefferson died in 1826, so he lived a little longer, but died much younger. Anyway, this Thomas Young, British Thomas Young, is not the one that I admire most. But just tell you about this guy anyway. So he is the British polymath. He is known as the last man who knew everything. Yeah. And that is the title of his biography. Back when everything could be known by one person. We've moved beyond that now. So he left a contribution in many fields of science, like visual, the mechanism of visual perception, optics, mechanics, and energy, physiology, linguistics. And also he is a famous Egyptologist who deciphered, hieroglyphs from Egypt. And he is well known for having deciphered the Rosetta Stone. And he also came up with this wave theory of light, as opposed to Newton's particle theory, which was later, confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew everything, and he made an enormous contribution to many fields. So he is a very well-known Thomas Young, one of the greatest polymaths ever lived, and the last man who knew everything. But another Thomas Young is not very well known, and he is an American. He was born in 1731 and died in 1777.
Wow, he died young.
Yeah. And he is the American revolutionary. He was a revolutionary. He was an autodidactic medical doctor and philosopher. And he was one of the leaders of the Boston Tea Party and very important member of Committee of Correspondence, which was created by Samuel Adams. Because he died in 1777.
Oh yeah.
And he didn't write anything. He has not a book or anything. Plus he was so original and so radical, so authentic in his thought and expressions, actions, that he was not necessarily liked by many people. His best friend was Thomas Paine, who wrote The Common Sense.
Yeah. He
himself was also a polymath. He was an autodidactic polymath. He was a philosopher, writer, mathematician, and civil engineer. And the reason why I love those people, Thomas Young, the revolutionary, and Thomas Paine, because of their intellectual courage. And they were in action to transform the world. They devoted themselves to something much larger than their own lives. And they didn't care if other people liked them or if they become famous or anything. They are entirely devoted to something that is larger than themselves.
Yeah.
And they risked their lives. And so two polymathic geniuses, Thomas Young and Thomas Paine, who are contemporary of Thomas Jefferson, famous polymath,
Right.
who are not as well known, but who are as great or even greater than Thomas Jefferson as people. And that's why I respect them very much.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing about the two Thomas Paines, or sorry, two Thomas Youngs and the one Thomas Paine. They do sound like amazing people.
Yeah.
Okay. So my last question, I think it's my last question. I reserve the right to change my mind, think of something else. But my last question is, so to some extent, polymathy is a kind of self-leadership. It's authoring your own life story, becoming unique, expressing your onlyness, being a leader of your own life in a way that nobody else could ever be. Nobody else tells you exactly how to become your own unique combination. You have to figure this out for yourself as you design your life and you curate your experiences. What do you think about the linkage between polymathy and self-leadership? What thoughts do you have about self-leadership more generally?
As I said many times, polymathic people tend to be highly intelligent.
Right.
And since the beginning of their lives, they don't really fit in.
Yep.
Many of us experienced kind of loneliness, sometimes even ostracism.
Yeah.
So in a way, you are kind of compelled to be a self-leader because you need to carve your own destiny.
Yeah.
Because you don't really fit in. And so you have to find a way. So highly intelligent polymathic people tend to have that, you can say a destined opportunity to be a self-leader more than those people who fit in easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, to be a leader, as I said, you need to develop self into self with capital S,
Mm-hmm.
so that your life include others and actually the entirety of your organizations, your society, your community, and then whole of humanity. And there's no limit to how much you can expand yourself, range of yourself. And as I said, Thomas Young, the revolutionary, and Thomas Paine, they are self-leaders and autodidact self-leaders who also expanded their self into larger self so that they could devote themselves to the cause that was larger than their personal lives. They were at cause with a cause that was bigger than their lives.
Mm-hmm.
That is a remarkable thing. And very few people move up to that level.
Right.
It's possible for all of us. And of course, today we are in a chaotic period.
Yeah.
And leadership is required.
Yeah. To get out of this.
So, especially young people, they want to move up and move out from this chaos and lead humanity into new direction. And look, American revolutionaries are in their 30s, most of them.
Do you think the chaos we're existing in now is a unique opportunity for us, for humanity?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
I love this visual. I think you said something like there's no limit or something. There's no limit to how much of the world we can let in. And I really love that like letting the world in to us is so important. At the same time, letting yourself really out. It's this two-way, like letting in and letting out without limit. It allows us all to expand.
Yeah, but not only spatially, but in terms of time, you can include all of human history into you.
Good point.
And the future also. Actually, it is essential for a leader to include the future into their self, larger self, future of humanity. Now, of course, being a mother, you think about your daughter's future,
right?
Society into which she's growing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but so every parents, if they're sane and rational, tend to think this way. But beyond being parents and children, for your contemporaries and future generations, what kind of world do you want to live? And so there is no limitation as to how far you can expand yourself. S, capital S.
That is such a beautiful thought. I almost feel like we should end with that thought.
Okay.
But there's no limit. Can you say it again? There's no limit.
There is no limit to the expanse of the self with capital S.
Yeah.
Therefore, no limit to the reach of the self-leadership of polymath. That self can include the whole of humanity, and the past and the future. We are all connected to everybody.
I thought of another question. I'm so sorry. This discussion has been so delicious. So we're talking about the importance of self-leadership and also that envisioning and harnessing the power of group to be authentic and polymathic and to come to well-rounded solutions themselves. So two parts, self-leadership and the group leadership. Do you think you can really reach your potential as a leader of others without first really being a leader of yourself properly?
Well, first of all, it is an ongoing process.
Right.
So
sure.
there's no limit as to your growth in this sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you begin to, it is a notion of a bodhisattva in Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
And also it is how you learn. Once you get to a certain level of knowledge and maturity, teaching becomes an essential component of your learning.
For sure.
Yeah. So, you know, when you begin to share whatever it is that, you know, you have acquired, including your evolutionary process itself, that will help others. And so there is no like, I need to reach that level, then we will do this. It will naturally happen once you reach a certain level of maturity.
There's like a dance. Yeah.
Mastery, you begin to share and you begin to inspire others. Then that and teaching and leading and guiding them is also part of your essential component of your own learning and growth.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think a critical part of being a leader of yourself or of others is that you continue to learn and grow.
Exactly.
Look, and it's a dance of learning and teaching.
Yeah. I don't think you have finished a PhD in being mother before you decided to have a daughter.
Right. You learn as you go.
And then
you are country song.
You are becoming mother along with your daughter.
Yeah. There's this country song. It's a really old one, but it goes, life is a dance. You learn as you go. Yes. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow. Yeah. That's how it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Maybe we should end there. This has been so good, Yasuhiko. Ooh, I'm so excited to share this with people.
Great.
It was excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.